I didn't grow up afraid of the dark. That surprises people when I say it, because what happened to me started when I was a kid. But fear wasn't something I learned early. I grew up in a small town in the Midwest, the kind where church bells rang on Sundays and everyone waved when you drove past. My family believed in God, but not in the dramatic way. No sermons at home, no talk of demons or angels. Faith was quiet, private, something you didn't question or explain. By the time I was a teenager, I didn't believe much at all. I believed in logic, in cause and effect, in the idea that everything strange had an explanation if you looked hard enough. That belief followed me into adulthood, into the jobs I took, the roads I drove, and the nights I spent alone across America. I was 23 when I started long-haul trucking. People think truckers get lonely. They don't understand that the road becomes company, the hum of the engine, the endless stretch of asphalt, the glow of gas stations at 2 a.m. It all feels alive in a way cities never do. You start to recognize patterns. You know which truck stops feel safe and which ones don't. You learn which highways feel wrong even before anything happens. I learned that too late. My first strange experience happened in Kansas, though I didn't understand it at the time. It was late fall, cold, flat land stretching forever. I pulled into a rest area just after midnight. No other trucks, no cars, just wind and the buzzing of fluorescent lights. I remember thinking it was strange that the restrooms were open but completely dark inside, like someone had turned off the lights but forgotten to lock the doors. I didn't need the bathroom, I just wanted to stretch my legs. As I walked past the building, I heard footsteps behind me, slow, measured, too close. I turned around, expecting to see another driver. There was no one there. The sound stopped the moment I turned. I stood there for a long time, listening. Nothing. I laughed it off, got back in my cab, and drove away. I didn't know then that it wouldn't be the last time I heard footsteps where no one should have been. The second time happened months later in Arizona. I was hauling electronics overnight, driving through a long stretch of highway with nothing but desert on both sides. No lights, no buildings, just darkness pressing in from every direction. I saw someone standing on the shoulder up ahead. That alone isn't unusual. Hitchhikers still exist out there, especially in rural areas. But something about this one made my hands tighten on the steering wheel. They weren't waving. They weren't moving. They were just standing there, facing the road. As my headlights reached them, I saw it was a man, thin, tall, wearing dark clothes that swallowed the light. His face was turned slightly downward, like he didn't want me to see it. I didn't slow down. As I passed him, I glanced in my side mirror. He was gone. No sound, no movement, just empty road where a person had been seconds before. I told myself it was exhaustion, a trick of the mind, highway hypnosis. That's what truckers call it when your brain starts filling in gaps after too many hours on the road. That explanation worked until the next night. I stopped at a truck stop in New Mexico, one I'd never been to before. It sat alone off the highway, surrounded by nothing but open land. The parking lot was half full, lights flickered overhead. Everything looked normal. Inside, the place felt muted, like sound didn't travel right. Conversations were low. People avoided eye contact. The cashier barely spoke when I paid. I sat in my cab afterwards, eating and scrolling on my phone, when I felt the truck shift slightly, like someone stepping onto the running board. I froze. The movement came again, a soft creak of metal, then nothing. I leaned forward, heart pounding, and checked my mirrors. No one. I told myself it was the wind. I slept anyway. Sometime during the night, I woke up because my pab felt different. Not warmer, not colder, just occupied. Like when someone enters a room without making noise and you somehow know. I couldn't move.
My eyes were open, but my body wouldn't respond. I could hear my own breathing, fast and shallow. The sleeper behind me felt closer than it should be, heavy. I wanted to scream. Then I heard breathing that wasn't mine, slow, deep, right behind my head. I don't remember how long it lasted. When I finally could move again, I bolted upright and turned around. Nothing. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. After that, things started happening more often. Roads looping back on themselves when I knew they shouldn't. GPS routes changing without warning. Radio static cutting in whenever I passed certain mile markers. Always the same feeling afterwards, that I wasn't alone, even when logic said I was. I started avoiding back roads. Then I started avoiding night driving when I could. But trucking doesn't always give you choices. The fourth story isn't really separate from the others. It blends in, like everything else. I was driving through West Virginia, late evening, fog rolling in thick enough to swallow my headlights. The road twisted through the mountains, tight curves, steep drops. I slowed down, focused. That's when I saw the house. It sat just off the road, barely visible through the fog. Old, crooked, porch light on, glowing weak and yellow. No driveway, no car, just the house. As I passed it, every light inside turned on at once, every window. I felt it then, that same awareness that something was watching. In my mirror, I saw figures standing in the windows, not moving, just standing there, lined up, watching the road. I didn't look again. I drove until my hands went numb. Later that night, I pulled into a rest stop and checked my dash cam footage, hoping to prove to myself that I imagined it. The house never appeared on the recording. Just fog, road, nothing else. The fourth story is harder to talk about because someone else was involved. A woman. I met her at a truck stop in Ohio. She was sitting alone, drinking coffee, staring at nothing. She looked tired in the way only people who've seen too much look tired. We talked, just small talk, roots, weather, work. She asked me if I ever felt like the road followed me. I laughed, but she didn't. She told me she used to drive nights too, until she started seeing the same man on different highways, same clothes, same posture, never moving, always watching. She said he was standing outside her truck the last night she drove. I asked her what happened. She said she woke up and he was inside. She quit trucking the next day. Before we parted ways, she told me something I still think about. Whatever it is, she said, it doesn't belong to one place. It belongs to the road. The fifth story hasn't finished yet, because I'm still driving. I still hear footsteps sometimes when I stop at empty rest areas. I still see shapes in the fog that vanish when I get close. I still wake up some nights feeling watched, even at home, even far from any highway. And sometimes, when I'm driving alone through the dark highways of America, I see someone standing on the shoulder, not waving, not moving, waiting. And the worst part is, I don't know if it's something I met on the road or something that followed me home.
After everything that happened in that house, I told myself it was over. I moved out at 18, went to college out of state, and made a conscious effort to bury the past. I didn't talk about it, not to friends, not to girlfriends, not even to myself. Life moved forward the way it's supposed to. Classes, work, relationships, stress, normal problems. And for a while, it worked. Years went by without a single incident. No shadows, no voices, no feeling of being watched. That was the first mistake I made, thinking distance and time meant safety. I was 23 when I started driving long haul. It wasn't some lifelong dream. I needed money, and a friend of mine was already doing it. He said the hours were brutal, the sleep schedule was garbage, but the pay was decent if you didn't mind being alone for days at a time. At that point in my life, being alone sounded perfect. The first few months were uneventful. Endless highways, truck stops that all smelled the same, diners with flickering neon signs and burnt coffee, late-night radio shows that blurred together until voices sounded unreal. There's something about driving through America at night that feels disconnected from the rest of the world. Cities sleep, towns disappear. You exist only between yellow lines and mile markers. That's when things started happening again. It began subtly. I'd see movement in my side mirrors that vanished when I checked, hear knocking from inside the trailer while parked, even though the cargo was strapped down and motionless. Sometimes I'd swear someone was standing just outside my headlights when I pulled into rest areas, but when the lights fully adjusted, there'd be nothing there. I blamed exhaustion. Then one night in Nebraska, I stopped at a truck stop just off a deserted stretch of highway. The place was nearly empty. One other rig parked near the fuel pumps. Inside, a cashier and a cook. That was it. While I was eating, an older trucker sat across from me without asking. He looked tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. Deep lines in his face, hands that shook just slightly when he lifted his coffee. He asked where I was headed. Normal conversation. Then out of nowhere he said, "You ever feel like the road remembers you?" I laughed it off. He didn't smile. He leaned in closer and said, "Some of us don't just pass through places. Some places follow us." I paid and left without another word. That same night, about 2 hours down the road, I started hearing something coming through the CB radio. Not static, breathing, slow, rhythmic, like someone holding the mic right against their mouth. I called out, asked if anyone was on channel. The breathing stopped. Then a voice came through, quiet, distorted, but unmistakably speaking my name. I slammed the radio off so hard I cracked the plastic casing. The second story doesn't take place on the road. It happened months later when I took time off to visit my parents. They'd moved since everything that happened in my teens. New house, new neighborhood, clean slate. I stayed in the guest room. First night back, I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate, bare feet on hardwood. I assumed it was my father. The steps stopped outside my door. The handle turned. The door didn't open, but something pressed against it from the other side. Not banging, not shaking, just pressure, like someone leaning their full weight into it. I called out. No answer. When I opened the door, the hallway was empty. My parents were asleep, always asleep when it mattered. The third story happened in Arizona, near the border during a midnight run through a stretch of highway locals warned me about. No towns for nearly 80 miles, no cell service, just desert and stars. I saw a woman standing on the shoulder. She was wearing a white dress, barefoot, hair hanging over her face. I slowed down instinctively, then remembered every warning I'd ever heard. Don't stop, don't slow down, don't engage. As I passed her, she turned her head and looked directly into my cab. Her face was wrong, not injured, not decayed, just wrong, like it hadn't finished forming. I checked my mirror. She was gone. 10 minutes later, she was standing ahead of me again. Same spot, same dress. This time, she smiled. I didn't drive until sunrise. The fourth story is harder to explain because other people were involved. I picked up a hitchhiker in Oklahoma. I know better now, but he looked normal, young, clean, said his truck broke down miles back and he just needed a ride to the next town. He didn't blink much. Half an hour into the drive, he asked me if I believed in God. I told him I wasn't sure. He nodded and said, "That's good. It means you're still undecided." I glanced over. His reflection wasn't in the window. I slammed the brakes. The cab was empty. The fifth story is the one that finally broke me. I was parked overnight at a rest stop in Missouri. Dead quiet. No other vehicles, no lights except my dashboard and the moon. Around 2 a.m., I felt the truck shake. Then again. Then something climbed onto the hood. I could see the metal bend slightly under the weight. I couldn't move.
couldn't breathe. I knew that feeling, that hatred, that pressure. It was the same thing from the basement years ago. Something leaned down in front of the windshield. I didn't see a face. I felt it. And I knew with absolute certainty that whatever it was hadn't followed the house. It had followed me. And it was patient.
So, I grew up in a small town in the Midwest, the kind of place where nothing ever really happens, and when something does, everyone knows about it before the police even arrive. My family wasn't particularly religious, but we weren't atheists either. God was just there, something you acknowledged on holidays, something you swore by when things went wrong, but never something you actually talked about. I didn't believe in ghosts, not really. I liked scary movies, sure, and I'd listen to horror stories late at night the way most kids do, but I always assumed there was a rational explanation for everything. Fear was just your brain filling in gaps. That confidence followed me into adulthood. I became a long-haul truck driver in my mid-20s. The money was good, the solitude suited me, and I liked the feeling of crossing state lines while the rest of the world slept. There's something calming about highways at night, endless blacktop, the hum of the engine, the sense that you're the only person awake in a sleeping country. At least, that's how it felt in the beginning. My routes took me all over the US, Arizona deserts, Appalachian back roads, stretches of highway so empty you could drive for an hour without seeing another set of headlights. Truck stops became my second home. Diners with burnt coffee, bathrooms that smelled like bleach and regret, other drivers with 1,000-yard stares and stories they only told after midnight. One of them warned me once. We were parked outside a truck stop somewhere in Oklahoma, sharing cigarettes near the dumpsters because the smoking area was full. He was older, gray beard, hands like leather. He asked me how long I'd been driving. Still new, I said. He nodded slowly. Night driving'll show you things, he said. Not monsters, not ghosts, just things you wish you hadn't seen. I laughed it off. I stopped laughing a few months later. The first incident happened in Nevada, on a stretch of highway that didn't even have a name, just numbers and mile markers. It was past 2 a.m., no moon, no traffic, nothing but desert on both sides. I was halfway through a podcast when I saw someone standing on the shoulder. That alone wasn't strange. Hitchhikers still exist, especially out west. But what caught my attention was how still he was. He didn't wave, didn't step forward, just stood there, facing the road, arms at his sides. As I got closer, my headlights washed over him. He was tall, thin, wearing what looked like an old jacket. No backpack, no phone. His face stayed in shadow until the very last second, and then he turned his head. He looked at me. I don't know how else to explain this, but his expression didn't change. No surprise, no hope, no recognition, just a flat, empty stare, like he'd been waiting for something and I wasn't it. I drove past without slowing down. In my mirrors, I watched him shrink into the darkness. About a mile later, my CB radio crackled to life. No call sign, no introduction, just breathing. Slow, deliberate, right in my ear. I grabbed the mic and asked if anyone was on the channel. No response, just the breathing, followed by a soft sound, like someone trying to speak but stopping themselves. Then the channel went dead. I told myself it was interference, old equipment, coincidence. I didn't sleep that night. After that, I started noticing patterns. Certain highways felt wrong. Certain truck stops made my skin crawl the moment I parked. And sometimes, other drivers would talk, quietly, about things they'd seen but couldn't explain. A woman walking barefoot across I-40 at 3 in the morning who vanished when you got close. A child waving from a rest stop bathroom mirror. A man knocking on truck doors asking for help, but never showing his face. I still didn't believe in ghosts. Then came Wyoming. If you've never driven through Wyoming at night, it's hard to describe how empty it feels. The darkness isn't just around you, it's above you, below you, stretching out forever. No trees, no buildings, just wind and road. I was about 40 miles from the nearest town when I saw headlights coming toward me. Wrong way headlights. They were far off at first, bobbing slightly like the vehicle was swerving. My heart rate picked up. Wrong way drivers are no joke. I slowed down and moved toward the shoulder, ready to stop if I had to. The headlights kept coming and coming. Then suddenly they went out. Not turned off, vanished. The road ahead was empty. I sat there, foot hovering over the brake, staring into nothing. A second later, my cab lights flicked on by themselves. Every single one. The radio switched to static at full volume. My dashboard clock reset to 12 o'clock, and something knocked on the side of my trailer. Once. Hard. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. I didn't even look in the mirrors. I drove until sunrise. The next morning, at a way station, I walked around my truck to check for damage. There was a handprint on the side of my trailer. Not dirty, not greasy, just pressed into the metal, like the surface had softened for a moment and remembered the shape. 5 fingers. 2 wrong. I reported it to dispatch. They joked about it, told me to get some sleep. I started taking shorter routes after that, day drives whenever possible, but trucking doesn't always allow that. A year later, I was back on night shifts. This time in Texas. The stretch between Lubbock and Amarillo is infamous among drivers. Flat, straight, hypnotic, easy to zone out, easy to miss things. I was wide awake when I saw the truck ahead of me. No taillights, no reflectors, just a dark shape moving slightly slower than me. I flipped my brights. Nothing. I radioed out. No response. As I closed the distance, I realized something was wrong. The truck didn't have a trailer, or cab, or wheels. It was the silhouette of a truck, moving as if it were real, but empty. A shadow pretending to be a vehicle. I slammed the brakes. It passed through me. Not around me, through me. My cab filled with cold. My breath fogged instantly. The smell hit next. Burnt rubber, metal, something rotten underneath. Then it was gone. I pulled over and threw up on the side of the road. I didn't drive for 3 weeks after that. When I finally went back, I avoided Texas highways at night, but fear doesn't care about your plans. The last story in this part happened in Pennsylvania, deep in the Appalachians, where highways twist and dip and cell service disappears without warning. I stopped at a truck stop just before midnight. It was nearly empty. One other rig, lights inside, engine off. I went in, grabbed coffee, used the restroom. When I came back out, the other truck was gone. I unlocked my cab and climbed in. That's when I noticed the prints. They started at my passenger door, barefoot, leading around the truck, ending directly beneath my driver's side window. I sat there, frozen, staring at the glass inches from my face. Something tapped the window. Once. Soft. Patient. I didn't look. I started the engine and drove. Behind me, in the mirror, I saw a shape standing where my truck had been. It didn't chase me. It just watched, like it knew I'd be back on the road again. And the worst part is, I was right. I don't know.